Welcome to the Horror Friendly Podcast.
It's not over till that bitch is dead.
Let's delve into that a bit deeper.
I'm going to be like the peacekeeper between you two tonight.
Don't fuck with the original.
Yeah, don't fuck with the original.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Horror Friendly Podcast, part of the You Run Podcast Network. My name is Katie, and I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Chantal. Hi, Chantal.
Hi.
So we're going to be doing something a little different for you guys for the next month or so. We've decided to do a little mini-series covering some of the incredible films showcased at the UK Film Festival FrightFest. We're so excited to introduce you to these films and give you a bit of our insight. Thanks so much for listening and enjoy.
Okay, are you ready for our third film of the evening?
I'm so ready.
Okay, so I apologize for all my pronunciation on this one. So we are now covering The Last Voyage of the Demeter, directed by André Øvredal. The crew of the merchant ship Demeter set sail from Carpathia to London to deliver a cargo of 50 unmarked wooden crates. However, they soon discover they're not alone, as Dracula's unholy presence turns the trip into a nightmarish fight for survival. Katie, what did you think?
Oh my God, I'm going to say it again. Really cool idea for a film. I really like the idea. This is based on a chapter in Bram Stoker's Dracula. I think that's so cool. I've not read Dracula myself, so I think it's really cool that they decided to make a film. Nice.
Literally next to me.
They decided to make a film over one chapter. I think that's really, really cool. So I was really excited for this one. And I know me and you had talked about it, Tell, because we were a fan of André Øvredal's previous films, like Autopsy of Jane Doe, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. So I was excited for it. Didn't entirely live up to my expectations, but there were things in it I did really like. But yeah, what about you?
So I actually really enjoyed this one for a few reasons, which we'll obviously get into. But I did struggle with the length. However, as I've just said, I don't know what I would take out. Because obviously, again, without giving things away, you're kind of working through different stages and your different distances. And so I don't know what you'd lose, but I really did struggle with the time. Yeah, it was quite a long, I think it's nearly 2 hours. Yeah, and that's too long. Sorry, but it is. But I did think it touched on some really important topics. I thought it was really interesting having the main character as a black man talking about his struggles, because obviously this is set in, I'm forgetting the bloody time, the year it was set in, but obviously talking about how racism was literally affecting his day-to-day, how he'd moved country for a job that they literally turned him away because of his skin, and that's still prevalent today. So, but it was just in there, and it wasn't like a main aspect of the film, but it was something that was added in and done really well and done really thoughtfully. I think having the little kid was such a good actor, and he just kind of goofing around at the beginning and showing off the animals and that. I think that really kind of showed ship life and having kids involved and on the deck and deckhands and doing the sort of grubby work so that the adults were doing the bigger stuff. And I think there was a lot in this, the SFX was fucking brilliant. Really enjoyed the sort of visual on the SFX and also the sound effects. There was one point, again, it's mentioned Dracula, so we'll assume there's drinking blood, but there was one point he was doing it and it sounded horrific, and that was so good. I also, sorry, I'm going to shut up in a second, let you talk. But I also really like, again, that Dracula actually wasn't the hero, because again, he's on the ship, they're trying to get across the water. But recently, in the last few years, Dracula has become he's become quite idolized. So again, depending which film you're watching, he could be the hero or not. But vampires have become these sort of hero characters. So actually flipping it back round, I really enjoyed that, because I hadn't seen that in a while. So I did like that.
Do you mean like vampires have become quite sexy and quite cool and like a character you kind of want to be?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this was just the complete opposite.
Yeah, there's always that rich, wealthy man who's a vampire,
Yes.
who's 500 years old, and
Really attractive.
really smooth talker. That's how he gets 6 wives. And this just wasn't that. And it was kind of nice to see it flipped on its head and to stop.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, just not romanticizing it. Not that you can't, but it was just the reality of like being immortal and living that long and being not being able to go in the sunlight, like just little things that people seem to forget when it comes to vampires these days. Not to dish your Lost Boys, but
yeah, how dare you? How dare you? I did also love that this had David Dastmalchian in it, who was in Late Night with the Devil.
Like, it was really funny. I kept staring at him and I was like, who are you?
I know you.
I know you. Yes, the cast in this were great.
Yeah, they were good. They were good. And to be fair, I'd watch anything he's in. I think he picks good films to be in. I think, it'll be interesting to see your take on this because I think maybe I have a few more criticisms than you do. I will say that in terms of sort of cinematography, I thought there was a lot of darkness, but like almost too much, where like, obviously I know that's the point, but like it was almost to the point you couldn't really see what was going on. I felt like also they could have tried maybe a bit harder to capture Dracula. I felt like it was quite easy for Dracula to kind of like off them quite easily. And the director was kind of saying that he compared this to Alien, but in the ocean, which is a cool comparison, and I can see why he's done that. But on the other hand, I'm kind of like, don't compare this to Alien. No, I'm joking.
Well, one, speaking of darkness, I have now lost all light, so I am now sat in darkness as well. I may have to turn the lamp on in a minute. I do know what you mean. And it was funny because I was torn between, if you were on a ship in the middle of the ocean, it would be dark, especially back in those days. However, still makes it really hard when you're watching a film.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's not always a win. But I know you're like, don't compare it to Alien. However,
no, that was a dick thing to say. I don't mean it quite like that, but I just mean it like it's an interesting comparison. But yeah.
But I literally had a note that when it was going to come to who would you recommend this to, I was going to say fans of Alien, because it is that similar concept of having a monster in the middle of nowhere.
Totally.
It's that same similar story, even though one is obviously space, one is pirates.
Yeah.
It's not pirates, but it's pirates in the middle of the sea.
It's the ocean, it's pirates.
It's close enough. But so that's really funny that you were like, don't compare. And that was actually on my list to compare to.
You can absolutely compare it to Alien. I'm not gatekeeping here. There is no gatekeepers in this safe space.
Fine.
So
Katie has spoken.
Sorry. I was going to ask you, what did you make of the CGI and the look of Dracula with this?
So, funny enough, when I started looking up pictures afterwards, he's very obviously CGI'd. And some of the photos, I'll send you some afterwards because I needed your opinion on them for something else anyway. But I was like, they look almost like a toy. Whereas when he was kind of like in the shadows and you just saw the quick movements, I thought he would look great. And the kind of like when you saw part of his face and it was kind of slowly revealing, I thought he looked great. When you kind of saw him as a whole, it was a bit, it did lose something. I still think it was quite good, but again, I don't know if it was just because I was like, oh, thank goodness he's not an attractive man. He's but yeah, I actually quite liked it. Like, I definitely didn't hate it. I think it held up. I didn't look up how much was CGI and how much was SFX, so I don't know how well it will hold up, but I did quite like it.
Yeah, well, because I know Javier Botet was part of the process of being Dracula. He did play Dracula. Yeah. But yeah, like you say, like how much of it, I think it was maybe towards the end, like the ending scene is obviously, I think, where he comes in, I would assume. But it would be cool for us to look that up and kind of like share that on our socials. Because I think that'll be interesting to sort of look into a bit more, just to see like how much was he involved? Like obviously he played Dracula, but like how much was SFX basically? Yeah. But I think this kind of goes back to our conversation that we've had before. I think when it was on our Insidious episode with how much CGI should be in a horror film. And this is kind of where I think I've said before that's where it takes it out for me, when there's too much. And it kind of distracts me, and it kind of gets rid of any of the fear that I had for this film, or it takes me out of the film too much, I think, when there's too much CGI. And I think that's what happened here. I think in some parts Dracula looked cool. It's the least human I've ever seen Dracula, and I think that's awesome. Because like you say, they're always kind of like attractive men that are like, where, you know, have loads of wives around them, and this was like a proper monster. But I think, yeah, there was too much CGI for me.
So I am just having a quick look. So it took 4 hours to put the makeup on for Dracula. So there definitely was a lot of SFX involved. Usually we're in for 3 hours, which is a normal makeup time for full coverage. But for this creature suit, sticking things on and gluing things down and covering it was a 4-hour job. So it was a suit. But Ludstorm said that the practical makeup effects, sorry, I'm getting this from Wikipedia, but it's Göran Ludstorm who was the makeup designer. So said that the practical makeup effects team collaborated little with the post-production team responsible for creating the film's CGI. We did interact a little on set. I showed them what we had. I gave them scans of all our sculptures. They took photos of all the eyeballs that we had made to put in front of Javier's eyes, and they scanned him on set in the suit. But for the rest of it, we weren't really involved, which is a shame. So actually, the SFX team didn't 100% love it from the sound of it. It was a shame. So they've been very polite. And so I did love you could definitely tell there was more than, it wasn't just a grey suit with green ping pong balls, or green suit with the ping pong balls, however they do it. So there was definitely more to it than that. But it was the eyes I thought were very clever. I even made a note, of a couple of points where if there was like dripping blood and it was kind of mixing with the rain, and I thought that was really effective. But that wasn't, do you know what I mean? That wasn't like wounds and gashes and stuff. That was just that really little fact. There was another bit as well, which I didn't write down, but I remember thinking that's fucking cool. Shame I didn't write it down, but not that I could say it anyway because we're not doing spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the CGI worked for the film, but I just think there was a bit too much for me, and it kind of took me out, and there was no element of it that was kind of scary at that point, because I was just so taken out of it. But I say, like, in terms of like the darkness and stuff, there was like some points where you couldn't really see a lot, but in general I really liked the look of the film. I love that sort of gothic look, and yeah, and some moments were scary, but I think when the CGI was put into place a little bit more, that's when it took out for me ever so slightly. So yeah. But I read a review which said there wasn't enough gore, which I found interesting, because that was one thing I kind of took from it, that I actually really liked the gore.
I think that's the thing, you're never going to win everything, are you?
No.
I mean, there could have been more, considering how many like victims there were. There definitely could have been more. I mean, I never say no to gore.
You're just pro gore all the time.
Always pro gore. But I also think, again, Dracula isn't really like he doesn't rip limbs off. That's not his style. His style
That's
is
true.
A bite. Like, do you know what I mean? So there was never going to be a lot of gore. So I would defend it in that side, because unless you start ripping limbs off people.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, and I thought the gore was appropriate for the film, to be fair. So like, it's quite interesting that someone else has said that, but yeah, I thought it was an appropriate amount of gore.
No, definitely. I did like that. I wrote down "Here's Johnny" because it was definitely a reference at one point. Again, I don't know, intentional or not, but definitely nice to The Shining. And I also wrote down the line which was said about a woman by the man, who may be the only smart man on the ship, where he said, "Are we not going to listen to the lass?" And you know what? That doesn't sum up every fucking horror film. Yes, listen to the lass. Like, she was literally telling you things.
Listen to the woman.
Listen to the woman. The only other thing that confused me quite a bit was when they were mapping England. So I can't remember where we said they started. But they obviously started in their not their destination. They came across the ocean, and then they were like, I swear they said they ended up in Whitby, or at least that's when they started at the beginning of the film. But they were a day away from London, and I swear they mentioned Dover. But Whitby's up by Yorkshire, so I don't know what happened.
Oh yeah.
I could see how Dover would be a day from London, but I don't know how they ended. Yeah, that threw me. And again, I might have completely misheard the Dover bit. But I don't think Whitby to London would be a day on a ship. I feel like it would at least be a day and a half, 2 days. Until I don't sail ships to know this well enough. But...
Yeah, I'm not one for sailing ships. Anyone out there know? Tell us.
Again, it might have been like they got taken by the tide, they got disorientated with the compass, but maybe Dracula was fucking with them and just kept changing things. But I was like, I know for a fact though, Yorkshire and England, London are not that close.
No, Dracula's being a little menace.
Yeah, fucking Drac.
What would you say is your wow moment in the film?
Fuck, I knew this question was coming.
Literally, and it literally throws us off every single time, and it's going to in the next few weeks. So I'm sorry, listeners.
The worst thing is as well, 2 things that immediately came to head. Both of them are massive, massive spoilers. So I won't go with that. I did like, and it's going to sound really stupid, but they kept referencing like the knocking, and I kind of like how that kept being used throughout the film to kind of like, again, it was very explained, like obviously bigger ships, like if you just knock means you're okay. So I kind of liked how that kept getting used. Just something really simple, but it was obviously plays into a different sense of like you're listening out for it rather than watching out for it. So I thought that was again just one of those little details that now makes me want to go and be like, was that a thing they did on ships? Was that just, I need to reread the book and be like, was that in the book? Like
nice, yeah.
What about you?
I really liked, I got his name down, Woody Norman's performance, who played the little boy. I thought he was great. He was my wow moment. I thought he was really cool. I really believed him with his how scared he was. I just wanted to give him a little hug. I thought he was awesome. You could really feel his fear in certain scenes, and you really believed it. I thought he was great. So he's my moment.
He was really great, actually. I did write down this kid is an amazing actor.
Yeah, he's going places.
Yeah, no, keep an eye on him because he was definitely brilliant.
Yeah.
What are you giving it out of 5?
I'm going to give it 2 out of 5 spookies. It was slightly too long for me. So to your point, I think like for a film like this and to keep up with the action and to keep you focused on it, I think that nearly 2 hours is way too long for a film like this. I loved the gothic look of it. And I think the actual idea of it and the idea of being stuck on a ship with Dracula is fucking petrifying. It's cool. I do understand, jokes aside, I understand what the director was referring to when he was comparing it to Alien. But it just didn't massively hold up for me. I don't know if I'd rush back to watch it. Bit too long, bit too dark in some places. And the CGI for me was a bit lackluster. It just was too much CGI. So yeah, that's my reason for a 2 out of 5. But yeah, what about you?
Annoyingly though, the more we've talked about it, the more I'm kind of coming around to your thinking. Not because like I think the problem is
come to the dark side.
But obviously we've been very fortunate to get these previews to watch these films, but I've been watching it on a small screen. So I don't think I clocked how much CGI there probably was. Like it might be something you notice when you watch it on a bigger screen, which is obviously me being me. I should have noticed, but we're not all perfect. So I do wonder if that might bug me on a rewatch. It was way too long. Sorry, but 2 hours is... I hate that all films are becoming 2 hours long. Stop it, please. Can't deal with it, right? But so I think... I'm now talking myself down, whereas I was...
Don't do it. Stick to your guns.
There was some really good moments. Like the acting was great in this. Again, I do love that very simple premise of Dracula on a boat. And yeah, so I'm going to stick with it. I think I wrote down originally when I immediately watched it, I wrote down 2.5. So I'm going to stick with that. Because yeah, I would watch this again, but I'd have to be ready.
Yeah. Fair. And so you would recommend this to Alien fans, you were saying?
I would recommend it to, I would say sort of like Alien fans, but not necessarily, again, because some Alien fans like Alien because of the sci-fi. So I would say Alien fans, if you're watching it because you kind of like the idea of like stuck with a monster. So, but maybe more like fantasy fans as well. I would say vampire fans. But again, you know, embrace that it's a different take on them. And yeah, I think anyone kind of with an interest in sort of like historical horror, fantasy horror, and yeah, I could go with Alien fans.
Yeah.
Monster horror.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think like anyone that's into the monsters, the Universal monsters, anyone into Dracula, into the book. I think if you've read the book, I think you'd probably be quite interested to see like how the film is portrayed, how the film portrays the chapter, as I should say. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think like, yeah, if you're a fan of Dracula and you have followed the films and you've, you know, the series and the different adaptations, then I think it's definitely worth a watch for sure.
Amazing. Well, as we say with all of these, we will leave the information below so you can check out the directors, any of the cast involved. Some of the films have their own Instagram pages, so you can follow them and find out where you can watch these films as they're becoming available. So yes, do check them out because again, they are a lot of fun. People have worked bloody hard on them and it's paying off, to be fair. I haven't watched one yet that I don't like, so it's all going well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and keep checking out our Instagram because we will keep sharing any information we get on them, any updates, and remember to subscribe to our YouTube so that you can see all of the videos we're going to be doing for FrightFest.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.